The latest as far as climate catastrophes around the world, well, entire ecosystems have been decimated in one of the UK's worst wildfire seasons ever. Wildfires are up 1,200% in some areas, with over 1,300 grass fires already this year. In Wales alone, in fact, a 1,600-hectare blaze in Wales has wiped out the last known habitation of golden plovers. Peat bogs, critical carbon stores, have been scorched, and experts warn they could take centuries to recover. The damage isn't isolated. From Northern Ireland to the Peak district, wildfire like butterflies, beetles have all been impacted. Birds of prey are now vanishing. That's the impact on wildlife. Conservationists are urging that there should be immediate government action to mitigate these climate-fueled disasters before more habitats and species are lost forever. Now, what is the extent of the damage that we are talking about? Ms. Kelka, who's the Executive Director of Climate WRI India, joins me to talk more about these wildfires. These are not isolated instances. They happen every year, except that they are now more pronounced than what they were earlier. What do you think could be the trigger?
One of the things that is happening with these wildfires, you rightly said that they have often happened before, but now they seem to be happening more frequently. They seem to be happening over a wider area. I mean, just a few weeks ago, we were seeing the devastating images from Hollywood, where some of the largest wildfires have been seen. A few years ago, there was wildfires in Canada as well. We've seen tourists shooting wildfire images from Italy, Spain, Greece, so Europe. So these are happening now across the world. And the reason really is that the temperature is rising and rainfall patterns are becoming more erratic. For example, the California wildfires happened after a long period of drought. It was a very dry season. The message really that we need to take away from this is that nature is sending us some signals that climate is changing. I'll give you another example, not from a wildfire, but from our own country in Odisha, from the coast where olive ridley turtles hatch. And there was a study that was done by scientists recently, and they found that over the period of 15 years, in years where the temperature touched 33 degrees Celsius, the turtle babies that hatched, the hatchlings, they tend to be 97% female. What that means is that the species gets threatened. If you don't have a balance of the sexes, then it could be that in warm years...
Ulka, these climate catastrophes are impacting wildlife, they're impacting habitation, they are impacting all impacts across the world. Explain to us that what can possibly be done, let's say, for a country like India, because the global south, developing countries, they are more vulnerable to these climate changes and climate-induced catastrophes.
You're absolutely right. And this has a direct effect on us, because when forests are burning, they actually release the carbon that they had stored. And not just forests, but the grasslands that are burning, or peat bogs, swampy areas. All of these store carbon or even methane at times and release it and make it particularly dangerous for countries like ours. So I think the effort, the global effort to mitigate climate change has to continue. Otherwise, these are feedback effects that will cancel out the efforts that countries like ours are doing, for example, by switching to more renewable energy.
And finally,
the second thing that we have to be...
Finally, I want to ask you this, that at a time when there is no global push, so to say, as far as addressing these climate concerns are there, how do you think countries can now address this individually, given the fact that funding has dried up, there is no push, there's no focus here? How do you think it's going to be, each country figuring out for themselves?
No, definitely there has to be cooperation, and this can take many forms. So one is the use of insurance in a different way. So in the Hollywood wildfires, for example, we saw that insurance tends to withdraw from areas which are again and again affected by these same kinds of disasters. So we need more public aid money, more government money, as well as international climate finance to back up the kind of security that private insurance mechanisms could give. This is something on which regional or global cooperation could happen. India hosts the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure and could actually lead efforts on this issue in a big way. And at a very local scale, I think traditional wisdom is something that we do have to bring back. In the Western Ghats of India, for example, forest-dwelling tribal communities have always had their traditional ways of wildfire management, and the sort of abandonment or forgetting some of these traditional wisdoms has led to more invasive species like lantana affecting the forest. So we have to
At the
revive
end of
our
the day,
traditional
indigenous solutions need to be adopted for some of these indigenous habitations and indigenous species to also coexist along with development and growth. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks so much for joining me.